Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to create a text adventure. This is part 2 of the series, and I'll be going over implementing game zones. So first of all, my apologies that this video has taken so long to produce. The next one is almost finished and I will post it later this week. In this video, I'm going to discuss how to, first, create a game zone. Second, save the current character's name and class to a file, in this case current char.txt. Third, create the tiles class and use it to read in the data in world.txt. Fourth, I'm going to test the tiles class. That may not sound like much, but it's quite a lot. I want to keep the length of this video under 15 minutes. So, in the next video, I plan to show how to move around the game zone as well as how to move from one game zone to another and back again. In the video after that, I will talk about how to implement a merchant NPC. As always, you can find the complete code on my GitHub. I'll put a link to that in the description. First, let's create a game zone. I've put the information needed to create a game zone in text files. Before I talk about that though, let's take a look at the directory structure I've set up. As you can see, within the data directory, we have two main directories, master files and player files. The master files set the initial conditions of any game zone created. Right now, there are only 3 game zones: world, town, and dungeon. I anticipate that more will be added, but those 3 are good enough for now. So now, let's take a look at the text file, world.txt. Here are the fields. First, we have an index, for instance, A1, A2, B1, B2, C3, that kind of thing. Second, we specify the kind of tile. So for instance, is it a path? Is it a dungeon tile? Is it a swamp tile? That sort of thing. We also describe the tile, so you stand on grass. You can be much more creative than that, I'm sure. Fourth, we have a description of what the player character would see if they were on that tile. So if they look to the east, what would they see? If they look to the south, what would they see? And so on. The final 4 fields have to do with how a character moves around the world: up, down, right, and left. The idea is that if the player is to move up, where would they move to? For instance, if the player were on tile A2 and they moved up, what tile would they move to? The possibility is none or the name of another tile. That will become more clear later on. So now, this is point 2. Let's save the current character's name and class to a file, in this case current char.txt. All I'm doing here is saving the name and kind of character I'm working with to a file. This is just to save time so I don't have to weave this information through all my classes. I need this information though because it will tell me which directory I need to look in. The name of the character will be saved on the first line of the file, and the kind of character I'm playing, warrior, mage, that kind of thing, will be saved on the second line. What we're looking at now is the procedures that I use to save the information and the other to retrieve the information. And they're pretty self-explanatory. All I'm doing here is saving the name and the kind of character I'm playing with. So now, and this is point 3, we need to create the tiles class. The tiles class is used to read in the data we need to create a game zone. And so we're going to do the world zone first. So let's read in world.txt. So now you can see the tiles class, and this is the initialization procedure. In the third line, char name, char kind equals, and then that's where we get the character info. We're just getting the character's name and the kind of character they are so that we can access the correct file. And also we're initializing variables such as the specific kind of zone that we're working with. Okay, so this code is in myclasses.py. And I'm going to step through, I've numbered the lines so that's how I'm going to refer to them rather than using an arrow. I'm just going to try this out. So lines 1 to 6 are straightforward. All I'm doing is reading in the data. Now let's look at lines 7 to 8. Here I'm just making sure that nothing went wildly wrong. If my lines doesn't contain any data, then I raise an error. All the heavy lifting is done in lines 9 to 15. Each record has 8 elements, so I set the loop to start at 0. Then I tell it to continue until whatever the length of my lines is, and then to take steps of 8 rather than 1. That's the outer loop. Now the inner loop, and this is lines 12 through 15, iterates through the record of 8 elements. I use a little function I wrote and tucked away in utils py to take a line and separate it out into key and value pairs and put those in a dictionary and then return the dictionary. So that may sound complicated, but it really isn't. So you can see that now on the screen. As you can see there, I'm just passing in a dictionary. I find the separating character. I use the colon. You can use whatever you want. If I don't find the character, I raise an error, and then I just separate the values into key and value pairs, put it back into the dictionary, and hand the dictionary back to the calling program. Simple. Okay, so now let's go back to looking at the load tile zone function. That function, I could have shortened it a bit, but I chose not to because I just thought it would be a good idea to separate out the functions. I could have shortened the function as follows. It's, instead of just reading it out, I've just put it on the screen there. You can do this in your code if you feel like it. I chose not to because I thought it was easier to separate out parsing the file and reading the data into a tile object. But of course, it's completely up to you how you implement this. So now note that new element here is an object variable. Here's the initialization function for the tile class. And that's pretty self-explanatory. If you would like to read more about how to work with dictionaries in Python, I've included a link in the description to a helpful article. Okay, so now this is point number 4. We're almost done. Let's talk about testing the tiles class. To make sure everything has been read in correctly, let's read in the data, then print it out. Here's the function I use in tiles. It's set display print. And it's super simple, just 3 lines and that's it. Of course, that's in conjunction with display print in the tiles class. And you can see the code up there now on your screen. It's really simple. I'm not going to go over it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So now I want to test to see that tiles is working the way I want it to. Just for the testing purposes, I create a tiles object variable at the bottom of my classes.py and I place the following code there. Now I run the program and here's the output. And as you can see, everything's working wonderfully. That's it for today. Now it was a bit dry. We didn't really do anything super exciting. We just moved around the world zone. But I wanted to get that out of the way. In the next video, I've already got it all coded. I just have to record the video. Next time, we will look at actually moving from one zone to another and back again. And if I have enough time, I'll start on implementing NPCs, specifically a merchant NPC that you can buy things from, that you can get quests from, and that sort of thing. Okay, so I hope you got something from this tutorial. I welcome any and all feedback. Please like and subscribe. Good coding!